the rancher who saved 2 Apache girls, and they came back to love him. There were wide open fields, rolling hills, and a small creek that cut through the land. John loved the simplicity of his life, the smell of fresh hay, the gentle lowing of the cattle, and the sound of wind rustling through the sparse trees. Every morning he would wake up before dawn, brew a strong cup of coffee, and check the ranch. It was his routine, and though he sometimes wished for company, he felt at peace with the rhythm of his life. He was a tall man, with sun-weathered skin and hands that told stories of years of hard work. People in town knew him as reliable, honest, and kind-hearted. John had lived alone for a long time, ever since his parents had passed and his siblings had moved away. Though his life was full of purpose on the ranch, a small part of him felt the emptiness of solitude. There were no children laughing on the porch, no shared dinners, and no voices filling the quiet nights. Yet John never complained. He loved his work and he loved the land. One particular evening, the sun was setting behind the mountains, painting the sky in shades of orange, pink, and purple. John was making his usual rounds, checking on his horses near the small creek that ran through the northern edge of his property. He listened to the familiar sounds, the water trickling over the stones, the occasional call of a distant bird, and the soft crunch of his boots on the earth. Then he heard something unusual, a faint, irregular sound that did not belong to the usual creatures of the desert. He stopped and listened carefully. There it was again, a small, panicked cry. He frowned, his heart tightening with concern. The sound was coming from near the water, where the trees grew thicker and the creek curved around a small bank. John moved quickly but cautiously, his instincts telling him that someone might be in trouble. As he approached, he saw 2 young girls, no older than 10 or 11, standing near the water's edge. Their clothes were dusty, their hair tangled, and their faces streaked with tears and dirt. John's first thought was to calm them, but he also realized he had to be careful. He had lived in these parts long enough to know that strangers, especially children, could be frightened easily. So he spoke softly, lowering his voice to a gentle tone. "Hey there, are you all right? Don't be afraid." The girls froze, their eyes wide with fear, glancing at each other before focusing on John. They did not speak at first, only clutching each other tightly. John took a slow step closer, keeping his hands visible so as not to scare them further. He noticed the tears in their eyes and the way they shivered, not from the cold but from fear. "It's okay," John said again. "I'm not going to hurt you. My name is John. What are your names?" The older girl hesitated, her voice trembling as she whispered, "Maya." The younger one, looking at John with cautious hope, said, "Leona." John nodded slowly, smiling gently. "Maya, Leona, all right, you're safe now. Let's get you out of the creek area, okay?" They nodded, still clinging to each other. John guided them to a nearby flat area where the sun still cast warm light. He offered them water from his canteen and some bread he always carried for emergencies. At first, the girls were hesitant, unsure whether they could trust him. But hunger and thirst soon overcame their fear and they took small sips and bites, watching John carefully as they ate. Once they were a little calmer, John asked them gently, "How did you end up here? Where's home?" Maya sniffled and wiped her eyes. We were playing and we got lost," she said quietly. Leona nodded in agreement, adding, "We couldn't find our way back." John's heart ached. He knew that getting lost could be terrifying, especially for children alone in such a wide, open, and sometimes harsh landscape. He reassured them, "It's all right, don't worry, I'll help you get home." Over the next hour, John stayed with them, letting them rest and regain strength. He shared stories about his life on the ranch, the animals, the horses, and the little adventures he had on the land. The girls listened with curiosity, their initial fear slowly giving way to fascination. John had a way of speaking that was gentle yet strong, and the girls began to sense that he was trustworthy. As the sky grew darker, John decided it was time to guide them back to safety. He knew the nearest Apache reservation was several miles away, but he had traveled these lands his entire life and was confident he could lead them without danger. He helped the girls onto his old ranch truck, making sure they were comfortable, and drove carefully through the winding paths and open fields. He spoke softly during the ride, distracting them from fear with light conversation about the stars, the animals, and the beauty of the desert. By the time they reached the edge of the reservation, the girls were exhausted but relieved. They could see familiar signs of their homes in the distance, and their faces lit up with joy and recognition. John stopped the truck and helped them down, making sure they were safe. He felt a sense of fulfillment, knowing he had done something important, something that mattered. Before leaving, John knelt to their level and said, "Remember, you were very brave today. You trusted yourself and each other. And never forget, if you ever need help, there are kind people out there willing to help you." Maya hugged him tightly, whispering, "Thank you, Mr. John. You saved us." Leona followed, adding, "We won't forget you." John smiled, feeling an unexpected warmth in his heart. He waved as the girls ran toward their home, their small figures disappearing into the distance. He stayed for a moment, watching the horizon and thinking about how life could change in an instant. That single evening, a quiet life on the ranch became the beginning of a story he would never forget. A story of courage, trust, and the unbreakable bonds that form in moments of kindness. That night, as John returned to his ranch, he looked at the stars and thought about the two little girls. He wondered about their future and felt a quiet hope that they would grow up strong and happy. He knew he had made a difference in their lives, and in a way, they had changed his life too. A simple act of kindness had opened a new chapter in his life, one filled with promise, connection, and the gentle reminder that even in solitude, one could touch hearts and be remembered forever. John went to bed that night feeling a rare sense of peace. The ranch, the land, and the wide desert sky seemed brighter somehow, as if the world had expanded with the presence of those two brave little girls. He fell asleep with a quiet smile, unaware that this encounter would lead to something much greater in the years to come: friendship, love, and a bond that would withstand the test of time. After John Miller had safely returned Maya and Leona to the edge of their reservation, he thought the day's adventure was over. But in reality, it was just the beginning of a deeper connection between him and the two girls. Over the next few days, John could not stop thinking about them. He remembered their frightened faces, the way they had clung to each other, and the way their eyes had searched for comfort. Something in him stirred, a desire to ensure they were truly safe and to help them in any way he could. The very next morning, he set out toward the reservation. He had always respected the Apache community and their traditions, but he knew he had to approach carefully. John did not want to impose. He wanted to be a friend and a helper. As he neared the small cluster of homes, he saw Maya and Leona playing quietly near a wooden fence, still holding hands. The girls froze for a moment when they saw him, unsure if he had come to stay or just visit. "Good morning, Maya, Leona," John said warmly, waving. "I just wanted to see how you are today." Maya hesitated, then smiled slightly, while Leona gave a small nod. John noticed that although they had been returned home, there was still a shadow of fear in their eyes. He understood. It was natural for children who had been lost to carry a little worry even after safety. "I brought some fresh bread and fruit," John said, holding out a small basket he had prepared. The girls' faces lit up. They cautiously approached, each taking a piece, and John sat down with them on a nearby log. As they ate, he asked simple questions, listening carefully to their answers. "Do you like living here?" he asked. Maya nodded. "Yes, but sometimes we want to explore." She glanced at Leona, who seemed hesitant to speak. John smiled gently. "Exploring is good, but it's always better to explore safely with someone who knows the land." The girls nodded in understanding, and in that moment, a bond began to form. John realized that these two young girls were brave, curious, and full of life, but they needed guidance and trust to navigate the world safely. He decided that he would be that person for them, not as a parent, but as a mentor and a friend. Over the next few weeks, John made regular visits. Each time he would bring small gifts, fresh eggs from the chickens on his ranch, apples from a nearby orchard, or simple toys he had made himself. But more than anything, he brought patience and attention. He would sit with them for hours, listening to their stories, teaching them small lessons about the land and showing them how to care for animals. One afternoon, John decided it was time to teach them something special. He led Maya and Leona to his ranch, showing them the horses that grazed quietly in the fields. "These are gentle creatures," he explained. "They can sense your mood. If you are kind and calm, they will trust you." Maya's eyes widened as she reached out to touch a brown mare. Leona followed, a little more cautiously. John guided their hands, showing them how to stroke the horses gently and speak to them softly. The girls laughed when one of the horses nudged them playfully, and for a moment, the fear they had felt when lost seemed far away. As days turned into weeks, the girls' trust in John grew stronger. They began to look forward to his visits, asking questions and learning eagerly. John, in turn, learned about their lives on the reservation. They shared stories of their family, the traditions they cherished, and the games they played. John listened with fascination, appreciating the richness of their culture and the wisdom hidden in their everyday lives. One evening, after a long day of lessons on the ranch, the girls sat with John under the wide desert sky. The sun had set and the first stars were beginning to appear. Maya asked softly, "Mr. John, why did you help us? You didn't know us." John looked at them, thinking carefully before he spoke. "Sometimes it's not about knowing someone," he said. "It's about seeing someone in need and doing what you can. I knew you were scared and I wanted to make sure you were safe. That's all." Leona nodded, her eyes shining with understanding. "We are glad you did," she whispered. In the following months, John's relationship with Maya and Leona deepened. He taught them how to ride horses, how to care for chickens and cows, and how to respect the land. The girls were eager learners, asking countless questions and paying close attention to everything he showed them. In return, they shared with John stories of Apache traditions, songs, and legends. The exchange was beautiful, a blending of worlds, where two cultures met and learned from each other. John also noticed that the girls had grown emotionally. Maya, the older one, began to show leadership, helping her younger sister navigate challenges. Leona, once shy and cautious, grew confident and curious. John felt proud of them, not as a father, but as someone who had witnessed their growth firsthand. One chilly morning, John found the girls trying to catch rabbits near a small bush. "Be careful," he warned gently. "The desert can be tricky. Always think before you act." Maya grinned. "We will, Mr. John. We've learned from the best." Leona giggled, and John felt a warmth in his heart that he had not experienced in years. These girls had brought joy, laughter, and a sense of purpose into his life that he hadn't realized he was missing. His ranch, once quiet and solitary, was now filled with small voices, laughter, and life lessons exchanged in both directions. As the seasons changed, so did their bond. Winter brought snow to the higher hills, and John taught the girls how to move safely across icy paths. Spring brought new calves on the ranch, and the girls were thrilled to help with feeding and caring for them. John's life, once measured by routine, now had the rhythm of shared experiences, of laughter echoing across fields and of small hands learning to trust the world. Through it all, John never lost sight of the most important lesson: trust. He realized that the girls had to trust him completely to learn and grow, and he, in turn, trusted them to respect his land, his guidance, and his intentions. This mutual trust became the foundation of a relationship that would last a lifetime. One late afternoon, as the girls prepared to leave the ranch after a visit, Maya looked up at John with thoughtful eyes. "Mr. John," she said softly, "we will never forget you." John smiled, feeling a lump in his throat. "And I will never forget you," he replied. "Remember, no matter where you go, courage and kindness will guide you." As they walked back toward their home, holding hands and chatting quietly, John stood at the edge of his ranch, watching the sunset paint the sky once more. He felt a sense of fulfillment that was deeper than anything he had known. Saving the girls had been an important act, but teaching them, learning from them and forming a bond, that was the true gift. From that day on, John made it his mission to be a steady presence in their lives. He knew that the world could be harsh, and that every child needed guidance, encouragement, and love. Maya and Leona had found safety in his care, but they had also found friendship, respect, and inspiration. And John, who had once lived a quiet, solitary life, discovered that opening his heart to others could bring joy, purpose, and a connection stronger than any he had ever imagined. The story of that rescue, and the lessons that followed, became a quiet legend in the small town nearby. People admired John for his bravery, patience, and generosity, but few understood the true depth of his impact. The way he nurtured two young girls' hearts, taught them the ways of the land, and in the process, had his own life forever changed. As the stars filled the night sky and the desert grew still, John felt a sense of peace. He had done more than save lives. He had planted seeds of trust, courage, and love that would grow for years to come. And deep down, he knew that one day, Maya and Leona's bond with him would return in ways he could never imagine. But for now, he was content to watch them grow, to teach, to guide, and to be a steady presence in the lives of two extraordinary girls who had touched his heart forever. As the months passed, John Miller's bond with Maya and Leona grew deeper and stronger. What had begun as a simple act of rescue had blossomed into a meaningful relationship built on trust, care, and shared experiences. John realized that these two young girls were not only curious and brave, but also full of wisdom that came from their heritage and upbringing. He felt honored to learn from them as much as he taught them. Every visit to the reservation became an adventure in learning. John would ride his old truck down the winding dirt roads, the engine rumbling softly, and the desert stretching endlessly on either side. When he arrived, Maya and Leona would run to meet him, their laughter ringing like bells in the quiet landscape. He always carried something small, a basket of fresh fruits, eggs from the chickens, or a simple homemade toy, but it was the time he spent with them that mattered the most. John began to teach the girls more than just the basics of ranch life. He showed them how to read the sky, how to notice the subtle signs in nature, and how to respect every living thing. "The land gives us everything we need," he would say. "If we treat it kindly, it will always provide." The girls listened intently, absorbing every word. They practiced alongside him, sometimes making mistakes but always learning. John never scolded them harshly. Instead, he encouraged them gently, helping them understand that patience and persistence were the keys to success. One day, John decided it was time to teach the girls how to ride horses properly. The horses on his ranch were calm and gentle, perfect for young learners. Maya and Leona approached the animals nervously at first, unsure of how to behave. John knelt beside them and showed them how to mount safely, how to hold the reins, and how to communicate with the horse using both voice and touch. Maya was the first to try. Her small hands gripped the reins tightly, and her eyes widened as the horse moved beneath her. John walked alongside her, offering steady guidance and encouragement. "That's it, Maya," he said. "You're doing wonderfully. Remember to stay calm and trust the horse." Leona followed soon after, a little hesitant but determined. With John's patient guidance, she began to relax and even laugh as her horse moved smoothly across the field. By the end of the afternoon, both girls were riding confidently, their faces glowing with pride. John felt a surge of happiness. Seeing them overcome their fears and learn new skills reminded him of the power of patience, trust, and care. Beyond the practical lessons, John also shared stories from his own life. He told the girls about his childhood, the challenges he had faced, and the lessons he had learned from working the land. The girls listened with fascination, asking questions about his experiences. In turn, they shared stories of their family, their traditions, and the lessons they had learned from their community. John realized that he was not just teaching them, he was also learning from them. Their stories carried wisdom, resilience, and a deep respect for life that inspired him. One quiet evening after a long day on the ranch, John sat with Maya and Leona under the wide desert sky. The stars were beginning to appear, twinkling softly against the darkening horizon. Maya turned to him with a thoughtful expression. "Mr. John," she said, "why do you care so much about us?" John looked at her, considering his answer carefully. "Because helping others is one of the most important things a person can do," he replied. "You both were scared and needed guidance. I wanted to be there for you, that's all." Leona, her eyes wide with understanding, added softly, "You make us feel safe and we like being with you." John smiled, feeling warmth in his chest. "And I enjoy being with you both," he said. "We can learn from each other and share our experiences. That's the best part." As the months turned into a year, John noticed remarkable changes in the girls. Maya became more confident and assertive, learning to take the lead when necessary. She was quick to understand lessons and eager to practice new skills. Leona, once shy and cautious, grew bolder and more curious, exploring the ranch with a sense of adventure and excitement. John felt proud of them, knowing that he had played a small part in helping them grow, but he also recognized that their strength came from within themselves, their courage, intelligence, and resilience. During this time, John also taught the girls about responsibility. He showed them how to care for the animals, how to manage small tasks on the ranch, and how to solve problems when things didn't go as planned. The girls learned that life required effort, patience, and understanding. They made mistakes sometimes, spilling water for the animals or letting chickens escape, but John never scolded them. Instead, he guided them gently, helping them understand the consequences of their actions and encouraging them to do better next time. John also introduced the girls to simple tools and skills that could help them in the future. He showed them how to mend fences, gather firewood, and even repair basic machinery. The girls absorbed these lessons eagerly, their eyes shining with curiosity and determination. John admired their enthusiasm and often marveled at how quickly they adapted to new challenges. One day, Maya asked John to tell them more about the stars. She had noticed the night sky was full of patterns and lights, and she wanted to understand their stories. John smiled and began explaining the constellations, sharing myths and legends he had heard from travelers and old books. He also listened as the girls shared Apache stories about the stars, teaching him about the beliefs and traditions of their people. That evening became a cherished memory for all three, a night of learning, storytelling, and connection under the vast, endless sky. As time went on, the girls began to see John as more than just a teacher. They looked up to him as a mentor, a protector, and a friend. He was someone they could rely on, someone who treated them with respect, kindness, and understanding. And John, in turn, came to see them as part of his extended family. Though he had no children of his own, the girls brought a sense of joy, purpose, and fulfillment into his life that he had never experienced before. Winter came, bringing cold winds and snow to the higher hills around the ranch. John taught the girls how to dress warmly, how to walk safely on icy paths, and how to care for animals during harsh weather. Maya and Leona embraced the challenge, enjoying the novelty of snow and learning how to adapt to new conditions. John watched them with pride, knowing that the lessons they were learning went beyond practical skills. They were learning courage, resilience, and the ability to face life's challenges with confidence. Spring followed, bringing new life to the ranch. Calves were born, flowers bloomed, and the desert began to green once again. The girls were thrilled to help care for the newborn animals, learning how to feed them, clean their pens, and ensure they stayed healthy. John watched with pride as they took on responsibilities with care and enthusiasm. He realized that these experiences were shaping the girls into strong, independent young women who would carry these lessons into their future. Throughout all of this, John never pressured the girls. He allowed them to grow at their own pace, making mistakes and learning from them. He celebrated their successes, encouraged them during failures, and always treated them with patience and respect. The trust between them deepened, creating a bond that was both unbreakable and beautiful. One evening, as the girls prepared to leave after a visit, Maya turned to John with a serious expression. "Mr. John," she said, "we will never forget you. You taught us so much." John knelt to their level, smiling warmly. "And I will never forget you," he said. "You have grown so much, and I am proud of both of you. Remember, life will bring challenges, but courage, kindness, and patience will guide you." Leona hugged him tightly, whispering, "Thank you for everything." As the girls walked back to their home, John stood at the edge of his ranch, watching them disappear into the distance. He felt a deep sense of fulfillment, knowing that he had made a difference in their lives. At the same time, he recognized that they had changed him too. His once quiet and solitary life was now filled with purpose, joy, and connection. John knew that this was just the beginning. The bond he shared with Maya and Leona would continue to grow, shaped by time, trust, and shared experiences. And though he could not foresee the future, he felt confident that the lessons, memories, and love they had exchanged would remain with them forever. In the quiet moments of that night, as the stars twinkled above the ranch, John reflected on how a single act of kindness had grown into something extraordinary. Saving two lost girls had become a journey of teaching, learning, and mutual respect, a journey that would leave an indelible mark on all their lives. And deep down, he knew that the connection he had forged with Maya and Leona was something rare and precious, something that distance, time, and life's challenges could never erase. Time has a way of moving quietly, often without notice, carrying people along paths they cannot always predict. For John Miller, life on the ranch continued in its familiar rhythm: the rising sun, the care of the animals, and the endless stretch of land that seemed to promise both peace and challenge. Yet, as the seasons passed, he began to notice a change in Maya and Leona. They were growing older, their laughter more measured, their curiosity now tempered by a new sense of responsibility. The girls were no longer the frightened children he had once rescued. They were young women preparing to step into the wider world. It became clear to John that, eventually, there would come a time when the girls would move on from the reservation. Education, work, and new opportunities were calling them. He knew he could not hold them close forever, and though the thought filled him with a quiet ache, he also understood that this was part of life. His role as a mentor was never meant to bind them to him. It was meant to guide them until they could stand on their own. The day finally arrived when Maya told John that she had received an opportunity to study in a town several hours away. Leona, not wanting to be left behind, decided to accompany her sister. John listened silently, his heart heavy yet proud. "I'm proud of you both," he said gently. "You've grown so much. I know you will do well wherever life takes you." Maya hugged him tightly. "We will never forget you, Mr. John. You taught us everything." Leona added softly, "You made us brave." John smiled, though his eyes betrayed the sadness he felt. "And you have taught me more than I could ever teach you. Remember, no matter where you go, courage, kindness, and patience will guide you." As they left, John returned to his ranch, feeling the emptiness that comes after a meaningful chapter closes. The house was quiet once more, the laughter of children replaced by the familiar lowing of cattle and the rustling of the wind through the trees. John immersed himself in his work, tending to the animals, fixing fences, and maintaining the land. Yet, every time he saw a bird take flight or the stars twinkle above, he thought of Maya and Leona. Their presence lingered in his mind, in every memory, every lesson, every shared moment. Even as the girls moved on with their lives, they maintained contact with John. Letters arrived occasionally, filled with stories of their studies, their discoveries, and the challenges they faced. John read every letter carefully, feeling pride and joy with each word. Through the correspondence, he remained a steady presence in their lives, offering advice, encouragement, and reminders of the lessons they had learned on the ranch. Though the distance was great, the bond they shared remained strong. John reflected often on the nature of their relationship, the way it had started with a rescue, grown through trust and guidance, and now persisted through separation. He realized that love and care were not confined to proximity. They could endure across miles, through time, and beyond the immediate presence of one another. As the years went by, John witnessed the girls' transformation from young girls into capable, independent women. Maya excelled in her studies, showing intelligence, creativity, and leadership. Leona, equally determined, developed skills that complemented her sister, growing into a confident and resourceful individual. The lessons John had imparted, about responsibility, courage, and respect for life, remained with them, shaping their decisions, guiding their paths, and influencing the way they approached challenges. During this period, John also reflected on the impact that these young women had had on him. Their curiosity, resilience, and trust had breathed new life into his quiet, solitary existence. He had learned patience in ways he had never imagined, discovering the subtle power of encouragement, guidance, and understanding. The ranch, which had once been a place of routine and solitude, now felt imbued with the invisible presence of Maya and Leona, a reminder of the lives he had touched and the connection that would always endure. Occasionally, John would visit the reservation, though the girls were often away. He would speak to elders, neighbors, and friends, keeping himself informed about their well-being. Everyone he met spoke highly of the girls, noting their intelligence, kindness, and respect for others. John felt a quiet satisfaction, knowing that the seeds he had helped plant were flourishing, and that the girls were becoming strong, admirable young women. There were times when loneliness crept in, as evenings were quieter without their voices and laughter. John would walk across the fields, looking at the mountains in the distance, remembering the afternoons spent teaching them to ride horses, care for animals, and respect the land. These memories were bittersweet, a mixture of pride, longing, and gratitude. But John accepted this solitude as part of life, understanding that meaningful relationships often endure through separation, and that love does not always require constant presence. As years continued, John began to notice subtle ways in which the girls' influence persisted in his daily life. Their lessons on courage reminded him to take risks when necessary, to explore new opportunities, and to embrace change with an open heart. Their teachings about kindness and patience influenced his interactions with neighbors, workers, and friends. The ranch itself became a living testament to their shared experiences, a place shaped not only by John's labor, but also by the memories of afternoons spent with Maya and Leona, learning, laughing, and growing together. One day, John received news that brought both joy and nostalgia. Maya had completed her education and was returning to the region, bringing with her a desire to reconnect. Leona, equally determined, would be joining her. John felt a surge of emotion, a mixture of excitement, anticipation, and a deep sense of fulfillment. He prepared the ranch, cleaning, repairing, and ensuring that everything was welcoming. Though he had waited patiently for this moment, the reality of their return filled him with a sense of wonder and gratitude. When Maya and Leona finally arrived, John was there to greet them, standing at the edge of the ranch with the same warmth and kindness he had shown years before. The girls ran toward him, their faces alight with recognition, joy, and emotion. Maya hugged him tightly, whispering, "We're home, Mr. John." Leona followed, tears in her eyes, adding, "We never forgot you." John held them both close, feeling a sense of completeness that had been missing for years. Time had passed, but the bond they shared remained unbroken. In that moment, he realized that every act of patience, guidance, and care had been worth it. The girls had grown into remarkable young women, yet they had returned, bringing with them love, gratitude, and a reminder of the enduring power of kindness. Over the next weeks, the girls settled back into life on the ranch. They helped John with daily tasks, cared for the animals, and participated in lessons and adventures much like they had years before. But now, the relationship had deepened into one of mutual respect, love, and admiration. The girls were no longer children needing guidance. They were companions, friends, and sources of inspiration. John often reflected on the journey that had brought them to this point. What had begun as a rescue, a simple act of helping lost children, had evolved into a lifelong bond, filled with lessons, growth, and shared experiences. He understood now that true connections are not defined by time or distance, but by the depth of care, trust, and love that exists between people. One evening, as the sun set over the mountains, John sat with Maya and Leona, watching the sky turn gold and pink. "You've both grown so much," he said softly. "I'm proud of you." Maya smiled, resting her head on his shoulder. "And we're proud of you, Mr. John. You taught us courage, patience, and love. We wouldn't be who we are without you." Leona added, "You saved us once, but you've guided us for a lifetime, and now we're here to be with you." John felt a warmth that went beyond words. He realized that life, with all its challenges and separations, had a way of bringing people back together when the time was right. The love, trust, and lessons they had shared had endured, and now they were stronger than ever. As night fell, and the stars appeared once more over the ranch, John understood that this was not the end of their story, but the continuation of a journey that had started years ago with a simple act of kindness. Maya and Leona had grown into remarkable women, and their return brought with it the joy of shared history, the power of love, and the enduring strength of connection. The ranch, once quiet and solitary, was now alive with laughter, conversation, and the warmth of family. John knew that the years of separation had made their reunion even more meaningful, and that the lessons they had learned and the bond they had forged would last a lifetime. In that moment, standing beneath the vast desert sky, John Miller felt a profound sense of peace. The journey had been long and filled with challenges, but the rewards were immeasurable. Two girls he had once saved had grown into strong, loving women, and they had returned, not out of obligation, but out of love, respect, and gratitude. And John knew with certainty that the story they shared would continue, shining brightly like the stars above, guiding them all through the years to come. The day finally arrived when Maya and Leona returned to John Miller's ranch, not as frightened children, but as young women, ready to reconnect with the man who had changed their lives. The sun was high in the sky, casting a warm glow across the wide fields and hills, as if nature itself was welcoming them home. John stood near the gate, his eyes scanning the horizon for the familiar figures he had not seen in years. His heart beat faster, filled with anticipation, excitement, and a touch of nervousness. When the girls appeared running down the path that led to the ranch, John felt a surge of emotion. Their laughter, bright and confident, echoed across the land. Maya, taller now, with the grace and poise of someone who had learned to face life with courage, reached him first. She threw her arms around him, whispering, "We're home, mister." "John," Leona followed, a little more reserved but equally emotional, wrapping her arms around his waist and murmuring, "We never forgot you." John held them both tightly, feeling tears prick his eyes. The years of waiting, of watching them grow from afar, had led to this moment. The girls, once small, scared, and unsure, had returned to him with gratitude, love, and respect. He realized that the bond they had forged through years of trust, guidance, and shared experiences was stronger than anything else he had ever known. As they stepped back to look at him, Maya smiled warmly. "We wanted to come back," she said. "Not because we had to, but because we wanted to. You saved us once, and now we want to honor that." Leona nodded in agreement. "You were always there for us. You taught us how to be brave, how to be kind, and how to trust ourselves. We couldn't imagine our lives without you." John felt a deep warmth in his heart. "And you've made me proud in ways I can't even describe," he said softly. "You've grown into remarkable young women, and your presence here fills this ranch with life again." Over the next days, the girls began to settle back into life on the ranch. It was different now, no longer a place of lessons for children, but a shared home of friendship, respect, and love. Maya and Leona helped John with the daily chores, feeding the animals, tending to the horses, and repairing fences. They laughed together, shared meals, and spent long evenings under the wide desert sky, just as they had in the past. Yet now, their interactions carried a new depth, a recognition of shared history and a connection that had endured time and distance. John also discovered that Maya and Leona had changed in ways that surprised and delighted him. Their confidence and maturity were evident in everything they did. They asked thoughtful questions, offered insights, and shared their own experiences, teaching John as much as he had once taught them. It was a beautiful exchange of knowledge, love, and understanding, a true partnership forged through years of respect and trust. One evening, as the sun dipped below the mountains, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, John and the girls sat near the creek, watching the water flow gently over the stones. Maya spoke first, her voice soft but firm. "Mister." "John, do you remember the first day we met you?" John nodded, smiling. "Of course. You two were scared, lost, and unsure of who to trust. I remember your eyes full of fear but also hope." Maya laughed lightly. "And now look at us. We're not those scared little girls anymore. But we never forgot how kind you were, how patient, and how much you taught us." Leona added, "You didn't just save us that day. You guided us, helped us grow, and showed us what it means to care for others. We owe so much to you." John felt tears in his eyes. "And I owe so much to you both," he said quietly. "You've brought joy, purpose, and meaning to my life in ways I never imagined. Saving you was just the beginning. Being part of your lives is the real gift." As the days turned into weeks, the girls became fully integrated into the rhythm of the ranch. They rode the horses with skill, tended to the animals with care, and learned even more about the land that John loved so dearly. But it was not just the work that mattered. It was the shared moments, the laughter, the storytelling, and the quiet nights under the stars that truly defined their reunion. John also encouraged Maya and Leona to share their knowledge and experiences. They taught him new perspectives on life, traditions, and culture, enriching his understanding of the world. Their lessons were subtle but profound, reminding John that growth is a lifelong journey, and that love and respect are at the heart of all meaningful relationships. One afternoon, as they worked together to repair a fence damaged by a recent storm, Maya paused and looked at John with thoughtful eyes. "Do you realize, Mr. John, how much you've shaped our lives?" she asked. John smiled gently. "And you've shaped mine," he replied. "The lessons, the laughter, the time we've shared, it has all changed me in ways I can't fully explain. I never expected this when I first found you too." Leona joined in, her voice filled with affection. "We wanted to come back because we wanted to show you how much you mean to us. You're not just a part of our past, You're part of our present and always will be part of our future. The realization struck John deeply. The girls' return was more than a reunion. It was a celebration of enduring love, trust, and the unbreakable bond that had formed through years of shared experiences. It was a testament to the idea that true connections can survive time, distance, and life's challenges, growing stronger with each passing year. That evening, John led Maya and Leona to the hill overlooking the ranch. From there, they could see the wide fields, the animals grazing peacefully, and the sun setting behind the mountains. The scene was breathtaking, a symbol of the life they had shared and the future they would continue to build together. "You see this land?" John asked softly. "This is where we began our journey together. It's where we learned, grew, and shared so many moments. And now, it's where we continue to build memories." Maya smiled, resting her head on his shoulder. "It feels like home," she said. "Not just because of the ranch, but because of you. You made this place special for us." Leona nodded in agreement. "Home isn't just a place," she added. "It's the people you love and who love you back. And we're home with you, Mr. John." John felt a wave of gratitude and love that words could not fully express. He realized that the story of his life had intertwined with the girls, lives in a way that was rare and precious. What had started as a simple act of kindness, rescuing two lost girls, had blossomed into a lifelong bond filled with love, respect, and mutual admiration. In the following weeks, the ranch was alive with laughter, joy, and the quiet satisfaction of work well done. The girls shared their achievements, dreams, and experiences, while John shared his wisdom, stories, and guidance. Together, they celebrated milestones, small victories, and the simple pleasures of life. Every day was an opportunity to learn, grow, and strengthen the bond that had endured so much. One evening, as the stars filled the sky, Maya and Leona sat beside John, their hands intertwined with his. "Do you know what we've learned, Mr. John?" Maya asked softly. John shook his head, smiling. "Tell me." "That love and trust," Leona said, "can last a lifetime. No matter where we go or how much time passes, the people who care for you and whom you care for will always be a part of your life." John nodded, feeling tears in his eyes. "And you've shown me that," he said. "You've brought love, joy, and purpose into my life, and I will carry that with me forever." The girls smiled, their faces glowing with affection and gratitude. In that moment, under the endless desert sky, the three of them felt a connection that transcended time, distance, and circumstance. It was a bond built on trust, care, guidance, and love, a bond that would last a lifetime. As the night grew quiet, John reflected on the journey that had brought them to this moment. From a simple act of rescue to years of guidance, separation, and reunion, their story was a testament to the power of human connection. It showed that kindness can create ripples that last a lifetime, that trust can endure distance and time, and that love, when nurtured, is an unbreakable force. John Miller, once a solitary rancher, had discovered the profound joy of guiding, protecting, and loving. Maya and Leona, once frightened girls, had returned to honor the man who had shaped their lives, bringing with them gratitude, affection, and the promise of enduring connection. Together, they celebrated the beauty of life, the lessons learned, and the unspoken bond that would forever tie their hearts together. The ranch, the land, and the endless sky bore witness to their reunion. And in the quiet of that desert evening, with stars shining above, John, Maya, and Leona knew that their story was far from over. It was a story of courage, love, and the enduring power of kindness, a story that would continue to inspire, guide, and uplift them for all the years to come.